one of the things that happens very often is nowadays when you teach someone chess, you generally teach them about attacking, right? About activity, attacking, and they love attack. I mean, we generally like attacking, and we like to sacrifice our pieces and all, and play that spectacular kind of chess. The problem with that kind of training is you lack the necessary defensive technique from an early age, and it's very important to teach people this necessary defensive techniques, and that can come through end games. Basically, the Russians knew about that, and Russians focused a lot on the end games. So here we have one end game. It's a very interesting end game. You can see Black has got extra pawns. He has got two extra pawns, and he's going to pick up one more of a pawn, and basically, I mean, he'll be completely winning. That's a winning position for him. But the thing is, this position is not lost. I mean, if I just play against someone online and you get this position, it's like White will just resign in this position because he's going to drop this pawn on his on h7, and it seems like it's completely lost. And that's the thing. That's the thing where defensive technique comes into action. Okay, you're gonna lose that pawn definitely, but there's other things as well. What happens and what matters most in rook end games is the activity. So you have a king on d5, you have a rook on b5, super active. Comparing that to the rook, that's super active. So we can definitely make use of our rook and a king, and we can make a draw. And that's the reason when you have activity in rook end games or any other end games, it can actually transfer. I mean, it can actually convert into a draw or even a win sometimes, because activity is what matters the most. And the defensive technique we are going to learn today is very interesting. So White gives up the pawn on e7, at 7. He just gives up and he hopes of defending that and plays king to c6. A very interesting move. We are taking control of some important squares like b7 and d7. So what does Black do? Well, he grabs the pawn. He grabs the pawn, protects his pawn on c7, and is threatening to push forward with h pawn and queen. It seems lost, but there's something that we have. We have rook check. Where does the king go? King to b8. A rook check. Where does the king go? King a7 probably, maybe. But now we have a check again. And it transpires that after king b8, rook to b5. Now, if you put your king back on a7, then we just go a check. And there is nothing better, but I mean, there is no other option but to go on b8. So what happens if king goes on c8? Looks like an interesting try. And this is where the defensive technique comes to action. We have a very interesting move here. White plays rook to h5, sacrificing a whole rook. What's the point? The point is very simple. If that's taken, the king is stalemate. A very necessary defensive technique that White might have just lost if he had. I mean, White might have just missed if he had just lost in that or resigned in that position. But as you just after rook h5, what else can he do? Definitely moving the rook somewhere is like a suicide because let's say you move your rook, here comes the mate. What else do you do? This is completely winning, right? Yeah, so that's the thing. That's one of the things that's very important in games. Understanding incompleteness. Here, although we are losing a pawn, but understanding that we are going to have tremendous amount of activity is actually important. And that's how we can defend this position. And there are so many of these positions which are actually very defensible, but people just resign in those positions. I see that very often in end games. I mean, especially in online games, it happens very often. So I really suggest you to study end games, and personally, I would suggest you to improve your defensive skills, because that is one of the skills which can help you when you're worse. When you're having worse position, it can help you. So hope you enjoyed this nice, interesting chess puzzle. What you can learn from this is activity. Activity matters above all, and especially in rook end games. So thank you for watching, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm gonna post some other very interesting problems today as well. So see you for now. Bye.